I began to look at the war on drugs and what an abysmal failure it was, and that we needed kind of a whole new approach and new policy in this country towards, helping people get better. One scientist showed me how he has to keep cannabis. First, he has to fill out all this paperwork with the DEA. And then, once he gets permission to use cannabis, he has to keep it in a locked building, in a locked lab, in a locked 950-pound safe. And he would pull out this teeny vial with 10 milligrams of THC. He has to account for every milligram, which is kind of crazy because you could just drive down the road to a dispensary and get, 100 milligrams in edibles.
We say that, our patients and people on the street can get cannabis easier than we can. It's important that people understand that this drug is not benign. It does have an impact on the brain. And today, the concentrations of THC being so high, sometimes it's a completely different drug. And that is what we have a fear about. They're abundant in those brain regions that regulate emotions, reward, cognition, memory, and motor coordination. The endocannabinoid system is really critical for how cells grow and develop. It lays out the hard wiring of our brain. Some of our own research has looked at cannabidiol, CBD, in regard to treating opioid use disorder in craving and anxiety. A number of other studies are looking at cannabis in regard to anxiety. CBD has been approved by the FDA for treatment for 2 rare childhood forms of epilepsy. There's no medication on the planet that will be perfect for everyone. And those individual differences, that's why you need research. Without having research and medicine to help to guide policy, we're having people do the research themselves. And that to me is unfair in our society.
Our cannabis policy is based on xenophobia and racism. And if you look at the way that cannabis arrests are happening across the country, you're seeing that an overwhelming majority are folks of color, particularly Black and Latino folks.
Roadside bomb. He had a traumatic brain injury and PTSD, and he stops to get gas in Alabama and ends up being sentenced to 5 years in prison.
It has not helped them in addressing any potential substance use issues, any potential mental health issues. In fact, it has done the opposite. It has created more mental health issues. It has created more challenges in these communities.
Low-income communities of color, where folks are using cannabis as a pretext to stop, search, frisk, interrogate, and kill folks of color.
It's been kind of a public health disaster.
Through really dedicated, smart advocacy we have moved into a place where the question is not, should we legalize cannabis, but when should we legalize cannabis? How should we legalize cannabis? We have growing studies around cannabis and research that are helping us continue to steal the political courage of communities and elected officials, that regulating cannabis is not going to be the end of modern day society.